All right, that means I'm gonna call him. Speaking of the devil.
Shall appear.
Yep, okay, Bob?
Yes.
I'll say. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May the 15th meeting of the East Hempfield Township Traffic Commission. Our meeting is being recorded. Robert's rules will apply. And what's the last item?
Public comment.
Robert's rules will
Public
apply.
comment.
And for public comment, the East Hempfield Township ordinance will apply. With that, let's rise for the moment of silence and the pledge. The pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item on our action items this evening is the approval of the minutes from our April 17th, 2024 meeting. Any changes or recommendations on the minutes?
None here.
Okay, hearing none, I'll hear a motion for approval of the minutes from the April 17th meeting.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth, motion, second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next up, we have our traffic reports. Looks like we've done some speed studies. Chief, you want to follow up on some of these?
Sure.
And could you do me a favor maybe before, just to jog my memory a little bit? Would you explain the 85th percentile?
Sure.
for me.
85th percentile is the speed that 85% of the vehicles are driving that speed or under.
Are driving that. It has nothing to do with the speed limit on the road.
Correct. It's using the speed limit that they're driving within 85% of that speed and under.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right.
So as far as the traffic report itself, before we get into the speed studies, the ongoing list of locations that we've been making impacts and spending time at is expanding as the year goes on and the traffic and the weather turns nicer. So we're trying to react the best we can to various number of complaints throughout the township between doing enforcement education as well as using the electronic speed devices that we have. So we did complete a number of traffic speed studies within the past month or so. That would include a number that came as a result of complaints or areas that we try and on a yearly basis do a speed study to see if any efforts that we've been making have been making a difference. I would like to note for you, Stony Battery Road, the study we did this year actually shows a reduction in the speed from the last 2 years. So in 2023, the study had the average speed of 41, the 85th percentile at 47. And this year we have the average speed of 37 with the 85th at 42. So I did think that was something to note, especially with your dedication coming to these meetings and making sure that Stony Battery continues to be a road of which doesn't get forgotten, neglected. So it seems as though some of the education and the enforcement, the visibility appears to be having an impact based on the speed study that was performed over the last 2 years. So I was excited to bring that news to you. I'm sure it doesn't feel that way sitting at your house, but the data that we collected does show a reduction. So at least we're moving in the right direction at this point. Some of the other roads that we did, Running Pump was a result of a complaint. Nolt is one we try and do on a yearly basis. We requested to do Bar Boulevard. Nisley is a yearly one. Bowman's a yearly. Spring Valley is a yearly, so.
Okay, so it looks like Running Pump, Knoll Road, and Spring Valley are trouble spots, right?
Yes, yep, all of which are, and I would say Nisley also is up a little bit. The 25-mile-an-hour zones typically seem to have a higher percentage of violators versus the 35s.
Chief, and so I'd like an education as well. So when it says average speed compared to the 85th percentile, what is the difference there?
Sure. The average speed takes every car that went through and basically determines the average of every car that went through. The 85th percentile then would be the speed that 85% of the cars that went through are traveling that speed or under.
Under or higher?
Under.
Under.
So what is this telling us in terms of what we should be doing or need to do, would you say?
For all of the roads in general?
Well, let's look at what I think are the trouble spots, Running Pump, Knoll, and Spring Valley.
Well, I would say is Nolt really one of those? Nolt's kind of close.
What do you mean?
Well, when you look at the average and you look at the 85th percentile and you look at what's enforceable,
Okay, right. I'm sorry, yeah. Well, it's only 4% are driving 15 or above.
Yeah.
Spring Valley and Running Pump, at least on these studies, are,
and Nisley, I'd say Nisley's there.
Nisley's there. The speed study was done on the 3300 block, which is in the area of Signal Hill and Ladderback by the turf farm.
Dawn, I know you'd love it, but if you're going to comment, you got to go to the mic, please. That's okay. That way our secretary can hear and add it to the minutes.
So just so we're, yeah, and I want to make sure we're talking for her. I don't know if she's not speaking into the mic yet. Okay, so Don, just to make sure, we're talking about the east side from Stony Battery, not the west side.
Oh, yeah, I
Right.
definitely know the
And we're
difference.
talking on the other side of Church.
Yeah, that's what I realize now, but the other side, which is also your jurisdiction, is bad. I mean, we walk there all the time. We walk up and down. I mean, thanks for the sidewalk. I hate the warehouses, but the sidewalk is nice. But we, walk up through there all the time too. And then there's big trucks going across your little bridge down there that, don't belong there either. And I'm sure they're just lost on GPS because they don't know where they're at either. But it's crazy. And then the amount of people that run that stop sign at Knoll and Stony Battery, something terrible is going to happen there. I just know it is. But, and I appreciate all your efforts. I mean, I've seen your signs and they're great. I like the one down on Marietta that says, it's not a suggestion for the speed limit. That's a good thing. But, I don't know. I understand how averages work, but I don't understand when I see school buses doing 50 miles an hour through there, how that factors in. And we watched it day after day while the sign was there. Cause I mean, it's 2 houses up from me and we were working in the yard, so it was easy to watch. But I mean, and I know you can only do so much, but sometimes your guy's taking a break in the drive lane over at the warehouse is a good thing too, because they can spot those cars for a long ways away and they automatically slow down. So I don't know.
So Chief, on Knoll Road,
Yes.
that's, when you said between Spring Hill and Ladderback.
Signal
that-
Hill and Ladderback.
I'm sorry, Signal Hill and Ladderback. My guess is that's coming down the hill is where a lot of those speeds are increasing, coming down up from Centerville.
Centerville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
coming
think
towards-
let me just double check. I think the unit was set up more towards Signal Hill, so it'd be down by the Vietnamese church.
Okay.
So
Now, would they be at the bottom of the hill though, coming out of that? Are we doing it both ways or?
we are doing it, we did it both ways and it was placed closer to Signal Hill.
Okay,
So it is a pretty good flat stretch and pretty far past. They're actually getting into the S bend, as you know.
right.
Where the unit was prior to Signal Hill.
And I know we put the big board out there, like on our property, going eastbound. But coming down the hill, it's so easy to like,
To pick up speed and
right? And not, I don't know,
we haven't done one in a little while, not to interrupt you there. I'd call it in the area of Nisley, if you want to,
Right.
between Nisley and Centerville. We haven't done a speed study there in a while.
I don't know that we need to do a speed study. I wonder if, I know we have the mobile,
The signage.
the signage that can be attached to different signs. And I wonder if coming westbound on Knoll Road might be,
Sure. We can put that on the list, absolutely.
like put that in the rotation might be helpful.
You bet.
I don't envy you your job at all. I really don't. I mean, I had a clown pass me on Centerville Road yesterday, before you get to the stoplight at Knoll. And he passed me in the car in front of me and, I was doing like 28. And it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone there. And he just went on down. And when I got to the stoplight at Harrisburg Pike, there he sat. So what did he accomplish other than try to kill somebody? I don't get it.
I guess we can't eliminate all the knuckleheads.
Yeah, but you guys got a boatload. You got
But,
more than your fair share. So,
On the subject of slowing traffic down, how effective are the signs? How effective are the signs that give your posted speed and then show you what your actual speed is, that flash at you?
that's what they're using. That's what was in front of our house. That's why I know what's going on.
So we do have those types of,
Yeah, we have a sign that we can put out as well as a new trailer that displays speed.
I've seen the trailer.
Yeah.
I've probably seen the other one also, but it seems like perhaps if we located some of these on a permanent basis in some of these troubled,
Like Spring
Yeah.
Valley has.
right,
Right.
I've seen that. Been effective or
Based on the speed studies, not overly effective.
not overly effective?
A lot of times when they're sitting somewhere for a permanent period of time, they just kind of blend in with other signs. That a lot of the research shows that when you move them around, then they catch people's attention more so than if it's a daily driver and you just kind of ignore it.
And how many of these type signs do we have?
So currently we have, the trailer I referred to was new as of this year, new as of about a month ago. So we have the trailer that now displays speed, and we have 2 signs that the police department can deploy that show speeds.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks to me that Spring Valley has a 17-mile-an-hour difference between the 85th percentile and the speed limit. So like that kind of strikes me as the worst one. You know, but
And enforcement's
And-
probably a little more difficult there on that.
We have a
road
couple
because-
spots that we hit, and after the speed study, we've been down a few times, recently, giving that area some attention, so.
And the 2600 block, just so a reference.
Chestnut Valley?
And when you had said education earlier, what does that entail? Like what type of education?
Sure. Twofold. One, the signs being out as a form of education, but then when we're out there, we have a threshold usually of which we'll stop and speak to the driver about their actions, and a threshold at which then we issue citations.
Mhm.
So we try and be pretty consistent across different roadways on where those thresholds are.
Okay. So do you find then when you issue a warning and then the next time you give a citation to that same person, like, is it the kind of thing where, you know, people get one warning and then,
Typically, yes.
yeah, okay.
We have the ability to check in our cars if somebody's had contact before.
Anything else on this
No.
from the board? Anything more from the audience?
I don't think there's anything any of us can say that's gonna change anything. I don't know how it's ever gonna work, but we gotta slow these guys down. And, you know, considering Stony Battery, there's, speed bumps aren't an option, and there's really no place to pull people over because there's no berm on that road, so. I don't know. I mean, I overheard a conversation in the Turkey Hill one morning, a couple of guys who had been through your speed sign, and they were saying what a joke it was because y'all don't stop anybody. But, you know, and he had no idea from Adam who I was, so it didn't matter, but, you know, they were just joking about it. And then when the guys get off work at that first, Utilamaster factory up there, coming out of there at 4:30 in the afternoon, it's just unbelievable. And how they pull out in front of people. I'm surprised you haven't had mass mayhem there. It's crazy. And I know they want to get home, but let's try safely. Everybody's in a hurry, just, you know, leave 5 minutes sooner. I don't know. There's got to be an answer, and I don't have it. I just have a lot of questions. Including, how do we get the other side of the street to cooperate with the, I mean, I know you know the chief. They don't, I haven't seen anything from that side.
Yeah. I can't speak for them. We
No, I
tell
know
them a
you
lot of
guys
times that we're
did a
going
couple
out,
of
and if they have the
details.
ability to come out and join us, they do.
Yeah,
But as far as their enforcement, I certainly can't speak to that.
because I mean, the day you were sitting in my driveway, there were 60-mile-an-hour cars on our side of the street that she couldn't do anything about. And trust me, that hasn't gone away.
Which side of the street are you on?
I'm on West Hempfield side. Across the street from the warehouses, which is your
Oh.
side.
All this time, I thought you were in East Hempfield. Okay.
No, see, and that's why I told Mr. Bennett there when he first introduced himself to me that, you know, thank you for not, because all the guys before you, I've been doing this for 5 years.
Okay.
And I just realized that when the chief was talking about how long she'd been, not you, but in West, how long she'd been there. And I realized, you know, how long, because I had dealt with the gentleman before that. So, you know,
Do you go to their meetings?
every month,
Okay.
except for last summer when I was stuck and couldn't get there. But
Okay.
yeah. But every one of the people that were on this panel prior to you guys told me I didn't belong here and I should leave. So that's why I thanked you. Because, you know, part of that problem is those warehouses that y'all created. I belong here. It's my front yard. And it might be the wrong side of the street.
Oh, we did
but
give
it's-
you a sidewalk though, too. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Yeah, it does give us an opportunity to not have to drive someplace to walk, but yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
Well, we're trying.
I
Okay, and we'll
I
continue
believe
to
that.
try.
I thank you very much.
You bet. All right, thank you. Maybe we should talk to Andrew and his group on this subject, see what, maybe we could do jointly. Okay. Next up on the agenda is old business, Indian Spring Pine Tree Way petition for speed bump or hump replacement or placement, I'm sorry. These are in the queue.
These are in the queue for a speed study, yes.
How, how far out are they?
I would say by the next meeting, we should have
Next
that for
meeting?
you.
Perfect,
Yep.
okay, good. Good. Any other questions from the board on this?
Mm-mm.
So, it's a speed study to evaluate whether a speed hump is appropriate.
It'll be a speed study to at least gauge if there is a speeding problem or not. And then further discussion can be had.
Okay, I'm just, looking at speed hump replacement. So it's not
Yeah.
clear that there is a speed hump. right?
There's,
There's not.
Yeah, okay.
And I think what we've established, Mr. Johnson, is that when we get a speeding complaint, we just don't like make a reaction. So I think we want to gather data, maybe see if there's some things that we can do to mitigate, what's going on, and then make a decision on,
Mhm.
what the permanent measures or whether there will be permanent measures put in place.
Yeah. Thank you. And and that makes sense to me. Yeah, I think it's conceivable that everybody in the community could get a petition written to say that a speed hump is required, but I don't think anybody wants to drive everywhere with speed humps.
Right.
Yeah, so that sounds good. Thank you.
Just one other thing concerning old business. I just want to be sure that both members of the Traffic Commission have received both communications that we've gotten from residents in the Barcrest area concerning speed bump issue. We don't need to get into it this evening, but it is something that I'd like to get addressed certainly in the next meeting or two, and sort of move on to what I think is another issue, that being the pork chop and what, if anything, we can do there to help the resident on the corner. That's my goal and objective. But we got two communications from the Smiths, and
I did not get the one from the Smiths.
it just came in.
Okay.
Just came in. I got it Monday afternoon. I asked Cindy to forward it out. It's in the packet. But again, we'll give you a chance to look at that, and then at the next meeting, I'd like to, take some action or maybe non-action, depending on how we decide. Okay, any questions?
Okay, so at the next meeting, we'll be discussing the future of the pork chop, did you say?
Not the pork chop,
Just the speed bump.
I guess at this point, it's just really the replacement of the speed bump on Barcrest Boulevard and a request from a resident to not really change anything that we have done there at this point.
I did get that email in regards to there's nothing to do with the pork chop at this point for probably about a year, unfortunately, if I understand things correctly. I'm not familiar with what the other residents requesting or not requesting in the email. I haven't seen it. But we did discuss it. There was an original request to put a temporary speed bump back up.
Right.
Are we revisiting that, or is that?
I'd like to revisit that because it's a change from what what we had from the beginning. And we got another request from Mrs. Ashworth, concerning making any changes. So she's concerned about that, as are the Smiths. And again, I'd like to, again, to take some action on it at our next meeting.
Okay. In fairness, I'd like to just review the letter and
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'd like you to do, or think we should do, and then we'll move on from there. And to your point, we will push the pork chop out. Hopefully not a year, but we just need to come up with, again, in my view, we just need to come up with a satisfactory solution to the issue for the resident on the corner. And that may or may not include eliminating the pork chop at this point. Okay,
Yes.
any comment from the audience on that? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next new business item. Looks like we have a resident suggestion to add hash lines along the curb on Main Street, which will require an engineer to submit a revised signal permit. 10 accidents at this intersection since 2019, with one attributable to the lane area of concern. Chief or Diane, do you have anything on this?
I don't have anything. Other than the one accident potentially could have been mitigated if somebody didn't drive up the shoulder.
What,
This was a concern that we received, I think via Representative Miller's office, that he received from a resident. The suggestion is what you see on the screen with those hash lines along the shoulder of Main Street on both sides of the Church Street intersection. So the chief was asked to pull those accident numbers just to determine if there truly was a significant issue with accidents. And I go back to that 85th percentile. Sometimes that 85th percentile is high and we go back and look and there's no accidents. So in reality, that 85th percentile is functioning safely. Same thing we look at with suggestions and complaints of this type. So we did determine that there's only been one accident in the last 5 years, and the information that's included there from Cindy is that if we wanted to make any modifications, we would have to have the engineer submit a revised signal permit for the intersection. It is an intersection with a state road, Church Street on the south side. And of course, then that's an expenditure of funds with that traffic engineer process. So it's really coming to you to just say, we've received this, we've researched it, and unless you want us to move forward with anything further, it would appear that we really are functioning fairly safely. Never optimally, but.
Can I get a clarification? So
Mhm.
if I understand, there's been 10 accidents since 2019. You guys went back in and looked at like that hash marks, people going around those in the lane, and determined that only one of those accidents was actually due to that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I went back, pulled all 10. A lot of them were rear ender, various turning mechanisms, so on and so forth. So one had to do with somebody going up the shoulder.
Okay.
yeah, and the implication is if there's the white lines there, the hash marks, people won't drive up the shoulder. I
Maybe.
mean, is it illegal to do that? Or is it just like,
It would
maybe
be
I'd
more of
rather
a
not?
cautionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
But it's a state road. We would need state approval to do
Yes.
this on some level, to your point about an engineer and incurring cost. If this were in a matter of just putting some paint down, might be more in favor of it, but at this point,
if I may say, I think some concerns at this intersection were due to the recent construction that was going on there, and that's when this complaint and suggestion came through. As we all know, there's been flaggers flagging that intersection for the past 2 or 3 weeks at least, as they're working on the road. So the traffic in that area has been substantially impacted, a little bit worse than what it typically is.
I guess my question would be, would doing this make the intersection safer?
I would say potentially, yes. That if cars weren't driving up the shoulder, but so safer, yes, it would. But I don't think it's really been that much of a hazard to date.
So when you look at it and just practical experience, I mean, there's very few times that you're backed up to the point where you're turning into that parking lot where CVS is, right? That you have to even worry about the second set of hash lines there. And, I mean, I guess with the Turkey Hill, you know, one car gets there, you can't, you know, I don't know. I'm along the lines with Mr. Bennett in his initial thinking there that I really don't think it's justified to spend the money. We're gonna spend money on traffic improvements. I don't know that here's the best place to do it.
Or we want to be sure we have a real need to make the expenditure, and that's not, in my view, apparent right now. So I think for now, we'll just say that we've reviewed it. And at this point, we're not going to move forward with any changes for now. How's that sound?
I'm there.
Okay.
Me too.
All right. Next up is public comment. Do we have any residents here for any public comment this evening on Traffic Commission? Seeing no residents here for public comment. Anything else from the board this evening for traffic?
No.
No.
None. We'll adjourn at 6:34.